Hello, Bill's sisters. Welcome to Light on Bill's 10 February 2024 episode. I know I always sit here like a ding dong because there's so many steps between launching Zoom, which you all know I use for these podcasts. So between launching that and the time that it confirms that it is going online, there's a pause, so a delay. So I will try to edit it in post production, but I'm not sure how successful that will be. And judging from my successes so far, I'd say I'm less than optimistic. But anyhow, um, coming at you solo today. I did um, have my sister Abigail on the show earlier this week. We recorded an episode, and every single computer that I have does not have the capacity for me to actually be able to edit this thing and put it online in anything greater than 360p. So I didn't want to subject you to that again, but I just might have to if I don't come up with another solution. So today I'm actually using my old laptop, which of course took me 20 minutes to get running. So who knows? There could be more technical issues that show up, but as usual, I don't care. Not that I don't care about you or about what we are doing, but more like that shouldn't be the barrier to entry. Am I right? So I'm just coming at you the day before the superb owl, which is, again, that I've been away from this for a while, and I only learned about superb owl yesterday on a Facebook group I have to share with you because it is a scream. I'm going to actually share some of the oh, those are probably on my phone. I'll see if I can find them. But it's called Gen X Women Are Sick of Your Shit. That's the name of the Facebook group. And of course, if you're a Gen X woman, this speaks volumes to you. If you're not, if you're Gen X, if you're a woman, it'll still be funny and relevant. And it's a very interesting deep dive into Gen X culture from a woman's perspective, obviously. So of course, I think it's very funny. I mean, it gives me life. I got to say that. And what I wanted to share is that they posted about the sports balls game. And that alone is like hysterical because I didn't even know this term existed, but it's like a generic for going off camera to sneeze. Yes. As you can see, I am not doing a lot better than I have been for the past, what is it, 3 weeks now? And I did see my doctor this week, following up some stuff she asked me to do. Maybe I'll share about that in a minute. Some of it's kind of scary because I have, as a woman, it's important that we talk about this, but I have had some pain in my left breast that is pretty constant. And when she referred me to for a mammogram and I talked to the radiology people, they said, "Well, is this a screening?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, describe the situation." So I did. And she said, "I think we need to make this a diagnostic." I I don't know what the difference is. If you do, please share. But I think she was asking for permission to do additional tests in case they see anything that looks suspicious. So that kind of freaked me out. And that was just yesterday. So I've been feeling a bit glum because we do have a history of breast cancer. My mom is a two-time survivor. My sisters have recurring issues. I won't specify because that's up to them to share with you. My cousin as well. So, yeah, this is something that we need to, as women, just be extremely conscientious about. And there you go. That's kind of fallen onto my, into my critical path. So I was feeling kind of glum yesterday. I mean, thankfully, early detection, right, is gives the opportunity for treatment. And women's bodies, like, wow. Um, how do we tap into that knowledge a little bit better? Because there's obviously wisdom that is accumulating from generation to generation. And, unless you have an open dialogue with your family members in particular, but also wider circles, it's really disorienting. And, so I asked my mom about her experiences, and she has ADHD. So she's quite, not to generalize, because, all situations are different, but she's quite good at compartmentalizing stuff. So it's hard to tease out of her, like what, to elaborate on what happened. And then it makes, of course, carrying this like generational wisdom from one generation to the next makes that a little bit more difficult. So raise your hand if you are familiar with this territory. And how did I get off subject? Because I really wanted to talk about um, Gen X women are sick of your shit, and the thread on sports balls, which, if I could just, because here's the very cool thing, it was like, all right, we have to talk about sports balls, so have at it. And of course, you have the input from the fans of the two teams who are participating in the Super Bowl this year. So there's a lot of that. But what I was really surprised about, and of course I was hooked, I couldn't, I mean, also because there's insight into what has happened in the football culture since I took that, during the time I was on hiatus. So, like I said, calling it sports balls, also the superb owl thing had me seriously giggling. Like, how sad is that? Um, and then also just this, let's see, the general question about, I know I'm scrolling, so sorry. I'm not that good at parallel processing, how you would think, right? Because isn't that a thing for like our kids? Dang, it's so amazing. I mean, it's also kind of insulting because you're like, you're not paying attention to me while they're like, well, let me just do it. You're talking to them and they're like, and you're like, I mean, they're actually processing pretty well. And I'm judging them against what I'm not capable of. So I'm not capable of doing these two things. So so I have the private group open. I mean, I'll do a screen share and try to keep um privacy respected because you know how I feel about that. Let me see how good I can do that. I'm sorry, how well I can do that. Probably not, because you know, the sharing function is not that specific. So maybe I can share because it's actually the admin, but Super Bowl thread. I'm gonna not. Okay, I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna try and find the actual posts and share those with you because they are so funny. And what I was going to say is, um, the most impressive thing to me was how many Bills fans are in this thread. So, like, of course, you expect the Chiefs fans, you expect um, the 49ers fans. I know I'm blocking it out. And then there's like a smattering of others. But I literally read through and there's like 1,400 likes, not to mention the number of comments. I don't know how, 1,400 comments. Um, and a zillion by me because I was so enthralled and read through everything. And that's how I came to the conclusion that there are just so many Bills fans who chimed in there. Even one, and I'm not going to call her out, who said she's rooting for the Chiefs this week. So just don't know what to say about that. I mean, I hearted her comment just because she said she's a Bills fan. One of the things that really blew my mind is how about, let's see. Of course, the admin asked us not to discuss you know who's become the you know who in the NFL, the not NFL in the NFL, you know who, not to discuss her. This is not a thread for that. The admin even says if you go down that path, your comment is subject to removal because it's fucking exhausting keeping that shit civil. Props to the admin. Um, However, one of the comments which I dearly appreciated was, and also like how is it that all of a sudden the NFL is acknowledging women fans, but only in the Venn where NFL fans are Swifties. Are you seeing my Venn diagram here? And I was like, yeah, it's almost like Gen X women don't exist and that we are not football fans. So, hello, I have a serious, like, that really spoke to me, that comment. And the whole sports balls thing that I can't even find the good, I'm upset now because I saved all of the most awesome images on my phone. And you know how seamless Apple works among these devices. I wonder if I can just, do the mom thing. Oh my, I'm gonna put them I'm gonna link them in the notes, but this one I really love. Let me see. I'm gonna just put it right here. It basically says what every single sports interview sounds like to me. You were sportsing pretty hard out there. A lot of sports happened. Why do you think you lost? We sportsed our best and scored points, but the other team was sportsing too, and they scored even more points. What's your strategy for the next match? We need to stop the other team from scoring points while we ourselves score many points. Now back to the studio for more hours of sports analysis. My income is higher than most countries. And you've probably all seen this, so I feel like such a doy. But, and doy, by the way, doy is so Gen X. Someone else responded to the chat. Ugh, did I lose my headphones again? I guess not. I can't hear, but maybe you can. Um, Someone responded to a chat with that term doy. That is so, from my childhood. But so to this lovely little illustration, I said, is this why women don't go into sports analysis or media coverage of sports? Because it's what I said, like, the first ever episode. It's just us going, if this, then that, if, and, it's all going to come out in the wash. So, however, the intensity with which these this group members contributed to the sport Super Bowl thread, and there are 445,000 members in this group. Um, the intensity with which they participated in the thread, and the levity, and yet the seriousness was really like heartwarming. Should I say heartwarming for me? Because wow, that's a lot of fans, isn't it? And that's just, I mean, okay, that's a lot of Gen X women, but a lot of women sports ball fans. You've probably all seen this too. Hooray, sports ball, do the thing, win the points. And this one I'm less, and because you've probably all seen whatever ad it is, probably an alcohol ad. Things to say during the Super Bowl to make it seem like you understand football. Have you seen that? It's like it says what the phrase is and when you're supposed to say it. So when your team has the ball, you say they got to establish the running game. And anytime during the game, you can say Roger Goodell is ruining the league. When a yellow flag is thrown, oh, come on, just let him play ball. I love that. Anytime, anytime you can say, there's a lot of game left. No, you can't. Not when it's like 2 minutes and you know. And when other people seem excited, you're allowed to say, "Ah, unbelievable." Of course, how that's a word that has a lot of nuance, so you can just kind of run with it, I guess. And then when other people seem upset, you had one job. This is good because it can be towards the player, the coach, the ref, Roger Goodell, which, by the way, how long has he been the whatever of the whatever commissioner? Commissioner. These are made up names. You know that, right? The commissioner of the National Football League. And by the way, I had to do a bit of research on nonprofits, and the National Football League in the IRS, like, you know, language about nonprofits has a whole clause that's only about the NFL. It is a unique specimen. Now, are they the first? Are they just the most recent? Are they the only? I don't know. But that really impressed me. Um, and and then also like, so he's the commissioner. I mean, I love it. How about we just like, let's create like a Bill Sisters Association, and then I get to be the commissioner. Unless someone wants to challenge me for the role, bring it. I mean, honestly, I'm gonna like, pierce the veil here, but first I had to apologize because I did have some like more worky kind of stuff this week, despite my health being up and down. So I had to remove the flag and the paraphernalia. It was heartbreaking, but I mean, this is one of several hats that I wear, just like for you. You're very complicated, complex beings. And we're also or we're primarily Bill's fans. That's a fact. We're primarily Bill's sisters. But then there's all these other roles that we have in life, which kind of just gets us through the off season, maybe, and interferes with our Bills fandom as well. Let's be really upfront about that. But so I had to take the flag down. I put it up, so it's not going to be the same. And please forgive me for that. But also, I've done a lot of startup, because I always say the shortest path to the boardroom is when you start an organization, create a boardroom, and put yourself in it. Because if you think that the patriarchy is going to put women in boardrooms, you can just forget it. If you think the NFL will ever have a woman commissioner, also, I don't like that word female, a woman commissioner, that could be the punchline of a joke for real, right? However, I love the title. Let's start an organization. We'll call it whatever we want. I want to be the commissioner. How do I get chosen? How do I get recommissioned? Because that would be the word, right? You get commissioned, you get commissioner gets commissioned, you're commissioned to that job. How do you get recommissioned? How do you get uncommissioned? How do you get commission on this undertaking here? Like if we got some sponsorship, I guess you don't get commission off your sponsorship, but anyhow, just some funding. Because you know what I found out? That Pat McAfee got $85 million from ESPN to do his thing with, like I said, like 10 people. 85 million. And then of course that became like a trash can fire with the whole Aaron Rodgers making the comments about Jimmy Kimmel, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know the details, don't care, but I read it anyway. And my takeaway from that exchange was that Disney owns both networks. So Jimmy Kimmel Live, ESPN, and the Pat McAfee show. So that was very awkward for them. I mean, who cares really? Who cares about that part? But more interestingly, that ESPN bought Pat McAfee for $85 million. If I could get $85, I'd be really happy. But so this is why people say like and subscribe, because if you subscribe, then the AIs, oh, look, my baby's here. Do you think I was talking to you? Did you go up and close that door? I think I hear my husband in the kitchen where he belongs. But it's kind of noisy, and then the cat's coming and going. Anyhow, he can't hear me. I can guarantee you that he has his headphones. They're probably working better than mine right now. I don't hear any sense of having headphones in, so probably just blabbing, and none of this is being recorded. But if I assume that, of course, it'll be the opposite. So I am going to just pause so I can make sure that all of that is copacetic. Can I close this? Nini, go upstairs. How about, can you please keep it closed? I had it closed though. Who? I mean, technically, I guess that means you I was still broadcasting even though I stopped the recording, probably, because these are probably two different things. But anyhow, it's fine. As I always say, it's fine. Everything's fine. Uh, and he apologized, so that's sweet. Don't get me started on it. We had a little bit of a, hmm, let's say, a difference of opinion yesterday, and still waiting on the real apology. So the big apology. That's a whole subject that, if he wasn't so close by, I would be happy to launch into. Men and the power of apology. There are some basic ground rules about apologizing. One, that you do it, like, regardless of, oh, look, I think my reactions are working. Um, that you do it. So if you do something shitty, or, whether it's intentional or not, this is something that I, you know, strongly impressed upon my children growing up. Whether you do it on purpose or not, if you hurt someone, you apologize. And you don't backpedal. So you never use words like but when you say, I'm sorry, but that's insincere. That means that you're not actually apologizing. And linked to that, you don't excuse it. You don't excuse it because it really means you're not seeing the person and their suffering. I was hangry. It doesn't, it diminishes the apology, which, has to kind of sit there untainted in order to hit home. You just have to say you're sorry. And if it's simply for how I made you feel, I mean, I think that's the other element. You got to say sorry for what? Like some blanket apology. I'm sorry because I suck. No, it's, we usually get upset or hurt, even accidentally. And let's assume people don't intentionally hurt others, although that's a terrible assumption because I think I've been through some of the worst crap when in the end it was narcissistic psychopaths who are just get a kick out of hurting other people, and taking advantage of them. But generally speaking, we don't hurt by design. So for an apology to really have resonance, it has to speak to the subject. Like, I am apologizing for this and nothing else. And even if it's just because I hurt your feelings, because I wasn't sensitive, sometimes that's enough. Do you even have to be more specific than that? Not necessarily, but there, little small mom moment. I'm sorry. Um, I don't know. I was going off about the Gen X women. That's just, when you find your community is really important. Oh, and becoming a commissioner, and getting paid what a commissioner gets. He gets like in the billions. And I think he's been doing this for 20 years. And by the way, isn't he from Jamestown? So why does he hate the Bills so much? But then again, Nick Sirianni is from Jamestown. Weren't you blown away to find that out when the Eagles played the Bills, at that game that has scarred me in Philadelphia when we were stupid enough to go to Philadelphia and watch the game? I was like, oh, this will be fun. It was my husband's birthday. Um, spent some time in Philly, which Motown Philly, that's like one of my favorite songs ever. I'm like a total New Jack Swing woman. And so I was like, let's go hang out in Philly. So much culture, so much history. I mean, hate the Eagles, but okay. I've even said that I was rooting for the Eagles last, whenever it was. Yeah, that was last year. when they played Kansas City, right? And got so ripped off in those last few minutes. Ugh, sound familiar? Anyhow, um, do you know though? Yeah, and I'm scarred from that experience. Do you know though that the worst person in the stands around us was a Buffalo Bills fan? A guy, to be fair, who started out very nice, okay, because we all discovered that we were Bills fans. By the end, I'm doing this, which I sometimes just do, like silently, when we have the ball and you can't really cheer out loud, so you just make a sign. I do that. He's like, you need to do it like this. You're blocking my view. But it was when things had already started going not so well, and then people start to externalize their frustration on people around them, which is bully behavior. I was so happy then that my sister was there, my Bill's sister, Rosemary. She turned and was like, stop harassing her. This isn't your freaking couch. She was so cool. Like sometimes, you hear how outspoken I am, and, I stand my ground. Generally, I'm not afraid to. But sometimes you're just speechless. Like you don't even know how to respond to situations like that. And that's when it's really cool that another woman stands up for a woman. Because sometimes it's the guys, the guys are looking for, they look to validate you vis-a-vis the other guy. So like my husband, the guy I'm with, tell your wife to behave kind of thing. Like I'm not a person, or like I'm a piece of chattel. I'm his property. He's going to make me behave. Um, it's especially good when another woman and can call out shitty behavior, especially by a guy. And he was busy trying to flag the security, and they're looking at me doing this, and they're just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? So they watched it long enough to, give him some consolation that his opinions had been taken on board, which is already, unnecessary. Because when people are shitty, you don't need to give them consideration. You can just be like, no, your comment is bullshit. So we're not even going to give you the time of day here. But, they did that and then they ignored him anyhow. So how did I get over here? But yeah, that's a whole topic, though, right? Bills fans. I mean, in London, it was the same. And it does happen disproportionately to women. And I think, and outspoken women in particular, is like the penis in the crowd wants to put you in your place. Like, oh, this is an outspoken, independent, fearless woman. I need to, either calm myself down because it's turning me on, or I have to put her in her place, exert my authority over her, which these are essentially the same thing, right? It's a power thing. And surprisingly, that happens to me a lot. um, Not surprising at all. But something I'm going to back down from? No. On the other hand, what I see is that women also lean into and encourage that kind of entitled male behavior. So once it was the wife of, so the time in London was the wife of, like, you go, honey, you tell her, you tell her to behave. So then it becomes like this, women scarcity thing. Like she can't possibly be like that because that makes me feel threatened. Um, and then one time in Buffalo, it was the guy's daughter. We are season ticket holders here, and I mean, I was literally like six rows further down, not like blocking them in any way, and jumping up and down. You know. And that's, I think, when you are especially targeted for silencing and censorship. Like, you are not allowed to do that. You cannot be a healthy, active, engaged, hysterical fan as a woman. You're just simply, I mean, or just a fan or anything, because you draw the ire of people, and women too. So that entitled fuck and his daughter, saying, calling the police on me. And that's something, that season ticket holders can do. But then it's like, I'm sorry, I also paid a lot for these one game tickets. So do you somehow have privilege over me? Apparently so, because like security knows them. Then so anyhow, um, but back to commissioner, day job, so to speak. I mean, I don't really have a day job. Like it's stuff that I've started up, so I just, do it when I need to, whenever I need to, and kind of like this. I think it's maybe that's why this is so chaotic, because I want to do it because I'm loving it. But also, I guess if there was more um, feedback from you all, I would be more keen to keep doing it more regularly. So I'm kind of like that. I guess I have a bit of ADHD too. Like I need that to trigger me to focus. So I guess that's something I also have to get out there and ask for support. It's also moral, because another Facebook page that shall remain unnamed has not been extremely supportive. And I guess that's also like that women fans of Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills, it's a scarce situation. Like if there's one group of women fans of Buffalo, there can't possibly be another group of, even if we're doing different things that complement each other. And dude, have I dealt with that like my whole life. So, all right, let's put a pin in it. Um, Back to like what happened this past week. Well, as I said, I did manage to have a very cool chat with our littlest sister, Abigail, about kind of health. I like to call it health and beauty. So maybe we can get some of those. What's the word I keep forgetting? I I want to say contortion and camouflage, contour, contouring. I want to get some traction like the contouring videos. This is never going to happen. But I did mention the face yoga with Coco Hayashi, I think her name is. Um, we're going to do that together. I'm totally going to do that together. And I spoke to my sister a bit about that and mewing. So I watched that documentary about mewing, and that's like, building your face maxillofacial structure through exercise, which makes total sense, people. And Coco actually goes into like, do you have bags under your eyes? Yes. And the kinds of exercises you can do. And I just haven't yet gotten over to be able to follow her videos, but I really want to. Um, so maybe we'll explore that at another time. But Abby and I did have like an hour and a half conversation, of course, not only because we haven't had a conversation. It's weird. Like now families text, right? We have our like messenger family thread, and it's always like whatever random shit is going on, and we just pop it in there and we converse. But we don't have as much of these, like whatever's flying through the transom right now, or what's in your craw? Like, what do you want to do? We don't have as much of that, which is something you really can only have IRL, don't you think? And also like seeing someone regularly. And Rosie and I have a bit more of that because we're closer in proximity. But this is part of of this another downside of the end of the season is that we're not getting together around football. So we haven't seen each other like in some time now. And yeah, bills are for family. Bills games are for family. So there's a lot to fill in that space. Anyhow, Abby, it's a long conversation because we haven't done that kind of just Zoom helps a lot. And we mentioned that. Like we used to do that more regularly during COVID, and we don't do it anymore, even though our physical locations haven't changed. So maybe it was just like a therapy thing, but we did do it more frequently then. We did like family Zoom calls. Maybe it was also because we had milestones that we wanted to share together. So we would celebrate those like that. Um, and maybe we're a little bit better at now that there isn't COVID of physically going to see each other when we're having those milestones. So there's that. But also, Abby's just very interesting. She's really kind of dogmatic about health stuff. She even said she has there's a label for it, of course. Let me see if I can find it. Is it we only casually mentioned it in our chat, and I wanted to explore it a little bit more. I'm going to see if I can find it in my chat with her. That is so American, I think, to label shit, right? Like one of my favoriteest lines from Charlie Brown, um, the, the Charlie Brown Christmas show special, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, of all shows, um, where Lucy says, if we can figure out what's wrong with you, we can label it. And that's it. She doesn't say, then we can, you know, understand it better and come up with a response to it or medicate you or whatever it is. But it's just like we can label it. And that's psychology in a nutshell, isn't it? It's like, well, let's just be sure we can label it. And then anything can happen, mostly big pharma. But the label that people um, ascribe to my sister Abigail is orthorexia. And I was like, is that an eating disorder? Well, an obsession with eating foods that one considers healthy with obsession underscored. So that's going to point us to another label, right? Um, Bullet point, a medical condition in which the sufferer systematically avoids specific foods in the belief that they are harmful. Noun, orthorexia nervosa, plural noun, orthorexia nervosas. So if you have more than one of these conditions, you have orthorexia nervosa. I don't want to make light of it, but it sounds like a bit of a spell that Hermione would cast on someone. And also, I have this like inherent skepticism, um, and anything that becomes obsessive is not going to be good. But then I wonder, again, how many women are ascribed this syndrome? And how much of that is just us being good moms or being, sensible, eat healthy? Is that a syndrome now? If it is, I'm afraid. Like eating healthy is a bad thing. I mean, if you look at it in that, if you draw it to its natural conclusion, but here it's actually called a medical condition and an obsession with eating foods that one considers healthy. I guess that I don't want to belittle it, but then I would say I'm probably guilty of the same condition. Wait, obsession. I'm obsessed with eating foods that I consider healthy for me and for my kids in particular. And then it works backwards from that. And like, trying to not eat sugary shit and not eat a lot of dairy, definitely not eat animal meat. Sometimes I eat fish, and I feel guilty about it. But I'm also considering, well, I need omega 3 and whatever, so I rationalize it in terms of being healthy. So I'd be curious to know what you guys think about this, you gals. I'd be curious to know what you gals think about this obsession, orthorexia, just the whole business of it, because I guess it is a business. If you're suffering from a particular syndrome, then you're going to need to be cured. So what's the cure for someone who is obsessed with eating foods that they consider healthy? Making them eat one Big Mac every week or what? You see, that's that's how my brain works right there. Anyhow, so not only, you know, okay, she was joking when she said that, and maybe we shouldn't make light of it. I need to know more. But so she says she's been called orthorex, or okay, labeled as having orthorexia nervosa. Um, and then, there are all these other things that she has like thrown in my pathway, which for me is really powerful and valuable. And I've been saying I've been suffering for the last is it now going on 4 weeks? Unfortunately, the air quality has not improved, so it's really hard for me to see if this is an external trigger or if something's going on inside. So that's why I wanted to speak to my medical practitioner. Um, yeah, so it's hard to, but like I've said, when the air is clean, I do feel better. But is it a coincidence? Not enough data to establish, you know, a causal relationship, and it might just be you know, what's the word? Um, you know, this is part of the syndrome, though. When I'm feeling it, also my brain doesn't work. And when I mentioned this to a friend of mine, she actually said that her friends had a mold problem in their house, and the woman in the couple insisted and started having her husband treated for early onset dementia because it was that bad. Like he couldn't keep a thought in his head, couldn't string a sentence together, which I'm facing a lot of right now. And then they did, I don't know how, because this is the magic question, is how do you then go, that weird mold, let's have it checked, or let's have the air in the house tested. Um, they did that and determined that there was a mold problem and had it remediated, and the symptoms went away. So this is a little bit of my suspicion. And in having that conversation with my friend, this was already a small inkling that had been bubbling up that in Northern Virginia, radon is a thing. And radon is radioactivity, basically, that is seeping up from the soil. And we have a radon uh, remediation system in our basement where I am. But so it's in the other half of the basement. It's because this is a known thing, and that's like carrying air from the lowest level of the house where there might be a greater risk of radon exposure or seepage, leakage. It actually comes into the foundation of the house, but it is radioactivity. You don't want, it's a gas, you don't want it in your lungs, especially among people who are sensitive. And I'm all these things. And I looked at that machine and I see it says that if looks like a thermometer, almost like mercury. It's red, like a little gauge on one of the on the pipe. And it says if that gauge is a U shape, then it's not working. And if it's if it's asymmetrical, then it is working. And ours is asymmetric. So I'm like, oh, it's doing its job, but who knows? We're renting here and this house is 30, 35 years old. So I had that epiphany this week to order a free radon check, test from the Virginia government, which is very cool that they do that. Actually, it wasn't free, it was $3. But yeah, it's kind of like COVID tests now. Sometimes they give them to you for free, sometimes you got to pay some nominal fee. But I ordered two tests, and my husband has also ordered an air monitor for the house that has mold and radon as two of its criteria. So let's see what that delivers. But you don't want radioactive substances in your living environment, just generally speaking, which has been my whole mantra. I mean, all right, I'm going to do this too. I'm going to go on now that I'm on this soapbox, which is one of my common refrains. I'm going to take you to my favoriteest, well, one of my, yeah, right, just by sheer usage, okay? Favoriteest website, and make you look at it and make you remember it. It's called purpleair.com. Now, without revealing which of these monitors is mine, because of course I have one. I've been following this since we lived in California. So basically, since we moved to the US, because part of the reason I wanted to come back to the US is because the air quality situation in Belgium was getting so bad. I mean, it wasn't the reason, there were other reasons. Like I mentioned, my father's failing health. But when we re-entered, I was specifically looking at air quality data. And purpleair.com is actually it's an air quality monitoring system where you just buy the little monitor, you hook it up, you follow the instructions, and then it launches your monitor on this live website, this a live map on the website. So right now it's from a 10-minute interval, but I'm going to put it on real time, and I'm going to zoom out for you. When I'm feeling my worst, I don't know, my laptop might cease if I do this. I also wanted to get Western New York on the, ooh, Jamestown. Look, you see that? Oh, no. Roger Goodell. Like, yo, how aware are you of this magic question? How aware of this are you all? The status of your air quality. Not only the status of it, but like how bad it is all the time. And my mantra, as I was saying, is I'm the canary in the coal mine. I'm the one who's going to be like, I can't breathe. I don't feel good. And then, so I'm like that, I'm the sensor, but no one should be living in these circumstances for a prolonged period of time, because it's the equivalent of secondhand smoke. It is secondhand smoke, and a lot of other things like those volatile organic compounds, ozone, and that's what's really interesting is on this map you can actually change what you're looking at. If you want to, you can just see what, for example, the temperature is in real time. Isn't that cool? And if you zoom in, so let's pick someone in Western New York who has a monitor. Now, when I first started tracking this, not as many people have the monitors as they do today. So if you want to engage in like user-driven or public science, which I love because we're creating data here, you can get a monitor and do this. Oh, look, become a community science. There you go. A scientist. It's not cheap. It was still like, I want to say at the time it was $120 or something to get the monitor we have, which we have in our kitchen. It's not even outside because there are other monitors in our area, which for me, that's sufficient to just see what is in the area. And then how bad the air quality is inside in our kitchen, especially because that's where we're doing cooking and that's where some of the worst culprits for bad indoor air quality are, unless, of course, you have a radon leak in your basement. And then I'm not even sure that this monitor can capture that. In fact, I'm almost positive that it doesn't. See here all the other things you can look at. This is mostly about particulate, but it also has ozone. So, ooh, wait a minute. What did I just see? I just saw. See, see if they're gray, that means that it's not collecting this data. And it doesn't know, the sensor itself doesn't know how. Let's see, experimental VOC. You see that? That's the thing I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Current status not received for 1 minute, meaning like now the map can have the quality to be pulling that data if it's available, but not all the sensors are equipped to sense for volatile organic compounds, except look at this one right here in Buffalo, New York. And dudes, we have a 371 for volatile organic compounds in east of Lackawanna, east of the 219. I don't want to shame anyone, but hey, okay. So not only is the data there, it's telling us what exactly the rate is and what the average has been for today. What does it mean? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know enough about the gauge to tell you, but it's called purpleair.com for a reason, because purple air is crappy air. If you see a purple map, we are in deep doo-doo. For me, already when it's turning yellow, I'm like, so it's literally, it goes green, yellow, orange, red, purple, brown, maybe black, I don't know. Uh, like a very dark maroon. And then it's like just throwing a towel. But look, do you see this? Um, here's a little scale. So y'all, if we're in the 6, 7, 8, 900s range, my gut feeling is that this isn't especially good. Again, here's kind of my area, my neighborhood. Well, I've also learned something exploring this with you. We've been on here for an hour. Like, should we talk a little bit of football? I did talk about the superb owl. I just love that. And sports ball, where someone also got on there saying, does anyone care about the Premier League? And I have to admit, if you haven't watched it, you should watch the series about Beckham on Netflix right now. Is it on Netflix? Yeah, I think so. I binged it because what's not to love? Seriously, like I was like, a man who like cleans the kitchen spotlessly. How come my reactions are not working anymore? Okay, different computer, maybe different. I had to update the Zoom application before I launched today. Anyhow, so Premier League is, of course, the soccer league. That is, I mean, I don't even know for sure. I mean, I guess it's the like Premier European League. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the Premier Global League of Soccer. I initially thought it was just a UK thing, so the Premier League teams in Britain. And I guess I'd know better if I wouldn't have stopped watching Ted Lasso because I started to get morally offended by his portrayal of women. Oh, but they're leaders. She's the owner of the team. Oh, but they all have to dress like, and okay, and petty, woman on women arguments and not sustainable characters, you know, and periphery characters. So, whatever your name is, Ted Lasso comedian, just dig a little deeper, will you, for women characters, please? Don't make us obsessed about finding a man or, I mean, oh, you know what? Just consult some women. Consult me on building like real, believable, and good, solid, realistic women characters. And don't kick them off the show after two episodes. Okay. So, all right. If I had kept watching Ted Lasso, I might know more about the Premier League because, it's like these hierarchies, I guess. Um, and so I don't know enough about the Premier League of that other football, which is what they call soccer everywhere in the world except America. And that's a whole nother interesting story because I think it actually came from soccer. I mean, from England when soccer was first being developed, that it was called soccer and then it became football. And we kept the old nomenclature. And there's some connection with Ireland in there, which I say truthful or not, isn't there always a connection with Ireland and storytelling facts? Um, so I don't follow the Premier League as much. I don't know enough about it. I do know there are a shit ton of Belgian players that are the top in the Premier League. Although they're getting older now, but we have always, that was my space filler when I could not root for the Bills anymore. Just it was a logistical thing. But became a big fan of the Belgian national soccer team. I've mentioned that before. They're called the Red Devils. And so like the Euro Cup and the FIFA World Cup, that was always a big thing for us. And the Belgian dream team came very close. And then kind of, while they're not playing for their national teams, of course they're professional players all over the league. So I guess the Premier League or FIFA, don't know. So that was a question that came up in the sports ball discussion. Is there anyone or thread? Is there anyone who follows the Premier League? No, but I did just watch the whole Beckham series in one go, and I mean this couple now. I mean they're like 10 years younger than me too. Although he might be almost exactly my husband's age, so best practice at least for now. Um, so maybe it's, you see the whole, all of what they've gone through as a couple, but mostly about him. And then, how that's impacted their family and their relationship. And still, they talk so glowingly about each other. It's really inspiring and beautiful. I mean, I guess I could get off on a tangent talking about how wonderful my husband is. Maybe I should do that more often. Um, but then the little stuff that just bugs me, it just bugs me. Like, you know, and I think, I wonder if over time you just get kind of saturated and then that's it, and, an empty nest. And then you're like, do I even like you? And there's like a serious introspection moment that a lot of married, probably, traditional gendered couples go through and don't make it, you know which is interesting because same sex marriages or couples have really interesting dynamics that I read about many, many years ago, like doing research on um, sex in a relationship, how different it is between female, and then I'm saying female, biologically female. So I don't even know about gendered female couples, female, gendered woman couples, gendered men, or male couples. So there's all that nuance, of course, and how different it is, and how interesting that is to research. So I don't want to generalize to everyone, every middle-aged couple. I can only speak about my present experience and also what I've seen just statistically, what happens. And that was another website that I came across because I'm also supporting my best friend who, is in everything but paper, is divorced, and is out there in that meat market right now. And in the Gen X channel, there are some women going through this too, obviously, because this is what our age group is facing, as I just said. And there is another Facebook group called Burned Haystack Dating Method that I am researching also because I have a general interest in the subject and a specific one because of my friend. It is trademarked, this Burned Haystack Dating Method, and run by a, let's see, I want to say is run by, okay, they also have they have Instagram, they have a website and a blog. I want to say that she's a psychologist, maybe a sociologist. Anyhow, I've just stumbled across this. Well, actually, it was recommended in the Gen X site, and I'm going to start fact finding on there. But in summary, it looks like hell. Like, so make it work. Now, speaking of making it work, it is almost Valentine's Day. And the last party that my husband and I organized was probably, I want to say 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, for our wedding and for our seventh anniversary. I think we coined an undertaking called Heartcore, which is just about musical styles that we are blending for these events that we organized. And yeah, it was his 40th birthday and the seventh anniversary of our marriage. We organized a Heartcore, and I'm just going to share that one of the artists from London, no, from Los Angeles, from the West Coast, who came to Brussels for this event that we organized, has just released some new vinyl ink that I ordered and hand subscribe hand signed, I don't know, by the artist because he's a musician and a visual artist, let's say. So I ordered that for Valentine's for my honey. But before then, there is this superb owl thing happening tomorrow. Um, I'm gonna probably watch it and root for Mr. Irrelevant only to see a Kansas City victory. And do I care if trailer has a proposal or whatever? No, I don't. And I will cringe every time it's on there. I do love Taylor Swift. I'm gonna come on record as saying that if in case I haven't already, which I think I have. But you know my feelings. Like this is not good for the Bills and Bills fandom because of how the NFL works. Nothing against Taylor. Um, but what else? Oh, the Pro Bowl happened. Um, I didn't really watch any of that. Did you? Oh, and then the other giant snubs. Oh, how could I forget that? Okay, 5 more minutes. I will rant about the snubs and then we will hang up. So, all of us knew that Josh would not get MVP. He did get one vote. So he's the only one besides Lamar Jackson that got a first place vote. Then mostly he got, I believe, third place votes. Um, so he finished fifth. Like, hello, how stupid is this system? Because then on the flip side, the more egregious and unforgivable outcome was Damar Hamlin not winning the greatest comeback player of the year, of the world, of life. Like, what the actual. And this is when Joe Flacco even said publicly on Twitter that Damar Hamlin deserved it more than he did, which makes me wonder why Joe Flacco did not dedicate his award to Damar. You know, here's emotional intelligence. Thank you for this lovely award for greatest comeback player of the year. I did come back from my parents' couch. Thank you to my lovely wife who supported me to be able to do that, and to the Browns organization who took me off my couch and helped, supported me to win to, I mean, they didn't even get to the playoffs. But as I said, I think the greatest comeback player is actually Damar Hamlin. So I'd like to thank everyone for this award, including the Academy, and I'd like to dedicate it to him. Am I right? I mean, okay, he did look very cool. He did win the best dressed award, but wasn't it like, oh, he's like the third presenter, red flag. No, he's not going to win an award because I just don't want to give that much face time to just one person. So when he came out dressed like he was right at the beginning of the show, that was already to neutralize the shitty thing that was going to happen further down the road. Don't you get that sentiment? I mean, that's like my spidey senses were tingling. And then it's like, well, what the hell is this system then? How do these, what is the criteria? How do these votes actually work? We know when the votes happen, like in October or something, right? So that you can't really solve for. That's yeah, there's got to be a deadline for judges. But what is the freaking criteria? I used to say this until Malala finally got her Nobel Peace Prize, which she had to share with another woman, I think, because we don't deserve a freestanding award of our own just for us. No, we always is like, oh, and here's one that the women can all share. But she was snubbed at least once for the people who were detecting the um, the chemical weapons in Iran. So okay, I mean that deserves a peace prize, but you know Malala had to wait, so maybe they could have waited. Anyhow, Malala finally got, but at the time when she was snubbed, it was the same question. Like, okay, a young woman got shot in the head and clearly came back from that to make a huge impact on society. It's like it begs the question, like, what does a woman have to do to get a peace prize? Well, shot in the head, but that in the first go round, that wasn't enough, right? Like eventually she got her peace prize, which she more than deserves. And I feel the same way about Damar Hamlin. Like, what does a bill player have to do to get recognition by the NFL. I mean, he literally came back to life. All right, so let's leave that there. It's been great catching up with you. Love y'all, girls. Go Bills.